Tonight's class was so special because it was in person. It was in person because this is the year of Hakel, the year of gathering, the year of getting together in person. And I hope as you listen to the class, you'll understand the power of Hakel, the significance of Hakel, and you'll think of ways that you too can Hakel.
So it's nice that we have people here in person. It's nice that we have people on Zoom who couldn't make it. The people on Zoom don't get the food. So if you're here, you get homemade cookies, courtesy of me, and homemade chocolate chip cookies, courtesy of Moshiach, and delicious dates and grapes and oranges. And if you're on Zoom, you should make yourself a l'chaim because I can't give you. But if you're here, we have a l'chaim. So we're going to start with l'chaim. Why are we having this gathering? So I said, besides the fact that my birthday felt so special doing it in person. It was so special. And it was like, wow, we used to do this. Like, looking at a screen, actually looking at a bunch of names. We were looking at people. We were talking. So that's one reason. The other reason is that this is a special year for gathering. Now I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So we're going to say l'chaim to all those here and all those not here, and then we're going to explain why we're here. All right? So l'chaim. We should see the blessings. We should see the blessings from our gathering. We should see the blessings from our virtual gathering. We should see the blessings that God blesses when people are together and so happy and joyous being together. And each person, what's in their heart, God reads the heart, and God should fulfill it. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'achol nihiyah b'haro.
Remember when
It is from Israel.
Wow, no wonder.
And they sell it here?
Yes.
It's in a short group of it.
Hey, four. We can finish the bottle.
Yeah, it's strong. I mean, which is good. Yeah.
Just right now, when we were driving, Walter were asking me, "It's how many? Do you think how many people will be?" I said, "I don't know. Probably we will have in-person class, and it will be by computer. But you will stay home." I said, "You know what? You know what? It's better if I like to see people, not really come just because."
We all like to see people, and I'm sure everyone also likes to see people. I'm sure everyone in Zoom, if they could, would be here in person because we all like to see. So why are we having this in person? We're having this in person because this year is a very special year. It's called, in the Hebrew, it's called Hakel. What is Hakel? So in the Jewish cycle of years, we have a 7-year cycle. 6 years we work, and the 7th year, the farmers are not allowed to work. Sort of like every week, we have 6 days we work and the 7th day we rest. But that's okay because we can work for 6 days and therefore afford to rest on the 7th. But in times when all the Jews were in Israel, and this actually rabbinically, it's still applicable today, the farmers are not allowed to work for an entire year, which is obviously very hard because first of all, you're not earning a living for a year, for 12 months, you're not earning a living. And also it's a farm. So you're not allowed to keep up your farm. You're not allowed to keep up the land, everything. It was a tremendously difficult commandment that is still applicable today. And there are farmers in Israel that did not work an entire year because this past year was the sabbatical year. Now, the Sukkot after the sabbatical year, which meant this year's Sukkot is the Sukkot after the sabbatical year. There was a special commandment that was only fulfilled once in 7 years. And it was that all of the people, every Jewish man, woman, and child, it's the only time every single child had to be gathered in the temple, and the king would read to the people from various passages of the Torah, and the king would talk to the people, and the king would inspire the people. And this, if we can envision millions and millions and millions of people, the entire Jewish people all gathered, which doesn't even make sense how that amount of the territory of the temple held them. That was another miracle. But they were all gathered. And all day long, all the priests were pulling around, blowing trumpets and gathering. You don't have a trumpet, you're not blowing, you're not a priest. Because everyone wants to be part of this. And it was just so inspiring, so overwhelming that you kept it in your heart for 7 years. And for the next 7 years, you kept in your heart that unbelievable miniature reenactment of the giving of the Torah. It was like the giving of the Torah. By the giving of the Torah, every single Jew was there and God spoke. And every 7 years, it was reenacted by the king representing God, speaking to the entire Jewish people. Now, of course, we haven't kept that commandment for thousands of years.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
Who started this tradition?
It's a commandment. It's biblical.
So only the king could do it?
Mhm.
Only
Only the king. Only the biblical king.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the king from the house of David, once we started David as the king. only
Not
the king.
not Saul, not the first king.
So that's interesting. Would they have known then? If it was the Sukkot after a sabbatical year, then really Shaul probably would have done it if he wouldn't have known. I meant more like the Hashmona'i dynasty. Remember, they wouldn't really have been considered the king to be able to really do this. But from when there was a king and there was a sabbatical year, which of course the sabbatical year started immediately, every 7 years this happened. And let's say you're 80 years old, that means you experienced it maybe 11 times. It's not something so often, but it's something so fresh. So, and since the destruction of the temple, it's never been done. So over 1900 years, it's something you read about in the Bible. It's something you study. There are laws. Maimonides discusses it. And it's a Lubavitcher Rebbe said, no, spiritually, this is something we still continue to do. And we don't just do it on that one day of Sukkot, we do it for the entire year. So this year is a special year of gathering. And I don't know if you remember, but I made a very beautiful gathering that Menucha hosted in her house
7 years.
7
Yeah.
years ago. It was in her house 7 years ago. She had many of her friends. I had made a lot of challah dough. We divided the challah. We all made our challahs. It was a very, very special gathering. And that was 7 years ago, the Hanukkah year. And now,
But it was at Rachel's house.
Rachel I think Rachel might have also been the Hanukkah year. Rachel was her Hanukkah Sabayis. Rachel was because she had moved into her house in Skokie. But before Rachel's was Menucha's.
Oh, okay.
Menucha had a lot of people there, a lot of her friends. I remember that was when Orly first joined the class and met us then. And it was a very special gathering, and that was 7 years ago. And I think you're right, Rivka. I think Rachel's Chanukah Sabayis, the dedication of her house, was that same year. I think that was also a Hanukkah. I think you're right. So that's why I said, here we're starting off the year. We just had the first month. Now we're just beginning the second month. We have to gather in person. So this is our Hakel. So l'chaim, to our Hakel. This shouldn't last. We should have many others this year. Many opportunities. People should throw parties in their house. We should all get together in person. We should rejoice with each other. And we should know that it's like the antidote to this whole social distancing separation sickness.
Yes, and
Be together, be with people. Literally, as we rejoice with people, we're strengthening the bonds that make us people. We're strengthening the bonds of our relationships, and we're strengthening the bonds between us and God. And for some reason, this year, when you do it, it's more powerful. And I do remember Menucha's, and I do remember Rachel's, and they were both very, very, very beautiful. So, l'chaim, we should have many more gatherings this year in person with a Zoom component for people that can't come in person. But for people that can, we make the effort, we get into our cars, we find parking.
yeah,
Thursday.
I was surprised it was waiting for
Right here.
Yes.
Really, this is crucial. People just, God said, I'm having the parking ready and waiting, so they won't be scared to come, and you'll come again, and you'll come again, and we should have many good, happy opportunities to gather. 7 years ago was when my son got married. So I remember that was his cocktail gathering. Yes. Yes, I remember that was a cocktail year. So it's very special. And the Lobster Rebbe really appreciates this cocktail concept. I will share a personal story that happened with me. This was in 1988, so it was a few sevens ago. And the Rebbe was very much pushing this idea of making gatherings. And my parents lived in Baltimore. I was single still at that time, and I went home for something, and I made a gathering. And I was speaking to the women. I was telling them this is a year of gathering, and it's really important to make gatherings. And the very fact of a gathering adds joy, adds connection to God, adds connection between people. You're going to hold it in your heart for 7 years. So somebody took it to heart, and they said, you know what? Every month we're going to make a gathering. I don't know if they kept it up for the whole year, but a month later, a woman made a gathering in her house. This is 1988, if you remember what cameras were like in those days. But she sent me a few not so spectacular looking pictures, like three pictures. Gathering. But she sent me the pictures of the gathering she made, you know, as a continuation of the gathering I had made. And I was like, what did I get the pictures for? I have to give them to the Rebbe. So I wrote a letter to the Rebbe. I said the backstory. And I sent in the letter with the pictures. And I received the most beautiful answer. The Rebbe said, so you should always report good news. All of your days, you should always report such news. Because that's how special this is. So this is really special. And I'm sorry for inconveniencing the people that couldn't make it, but I'm so happy for the people that did. So we're going to make some blessings and we're going to learn. And again, you can feel free to make a l'chaim wherever you are in your house. So then you're experiencing your delicious vodka instead of mine. Maybe Miriam's going to share hers someday. And as you're here or virtually here, think, what hakel are you going to make? What party are you going to make to gather? Now, the truth is, if you are in a situation where you're too COVID conscious to be able to do that, the gathering also can be gathering yourself. You know, we very often are very diffused inside ourselves. So we could gather ourselves, pulling ourselves together, and that can be our own hakel. You could do it if you're at work anyway, with or without a mask. You can make gatherings with your colleagues, bring a little food, or not. Share a godly thought, make a gathering. You could do it at home, with your spouse, with your children. Make a regular meal a hakel. Add a godliness, nice food, vodka, and a godly thought. Make it a hakel. So, and of course, you can go as Rachel did and Menucha did and invite friends and make it an occasion. But from gathering yourself to gathering with those that live in your home, to gathering with your colleagues at work. My sister, 7 years ago, started hakel gatherings with her colleagues. I believe she's kept it up, or at least she kept it up till COVID. And then gathering with friends. Every level is a hakel, every level is significant. So if we're